Hello and welcome to day 13 of our 30-day self-care challenge. Today we're in the kitchen. We're going to discover that eating well doesn't have to be expensive, and you'll learn exactly how to nourish your body on a budget. One of the biggest myths about eating healthily is that it's expensive, and the truth is it doesn't have to be. We can nourish our bodies beautifully on a budget. You just need to know where to shop and what to buy. Many of us feel trapped by the options we have for our diet. We can either go for the super expensive superfoods, or you can go for the easy and cheap processed foods. But there is a third way, and that's what we're gonna go through today. As you can see in front of me, I've got a range of ingredients, and these are all the types of budget ingredients that we can use to do our weekly meals or meal prep. And what you'll learn is that when you eat budget-friendly, nutritious food, we're gonna save money without sacrificing on the quality of the food that we eat. We'll build more sustainable eating habits. We're gonna reduce our food waste. And what I enjoy most about this is learning to cook from scratch. And that's using raw ingredients that are super cheap if you go to the right place. And I'm going to take you through some practical strategies of how we can do that today. And I'll do that by showing you a couple of different meals that I like to cook in my own time. So the first step is to shop smart. And we're going to do that by shopping at the right supermarkets or local stores. So if you're looking at supermarkets, we're looking at the types of Aldi and Lidl. They're going to be your best ones to stick to a budget. But you can also go to other supermarkets and shop the own brand items. And then we're going to look at the cheaper foods which we can buy, such as lentils, rice and beans, which are going to be our main component of the dish. And these types of foods are nutritional powerhouses which cost pennies. And the second thing that's really going to help you stick to a budget is planning ahead. Planning ahead is going to help us save money because we're going to buy specifically what we want, and we're not going to be rummaging around looking for what we're going to cook next or the next meal that we're going to have, or potentially have to go out to the shop to get that one ingredient to make that meal that you need. It will especially help as it will stop you buying stuff that you can snack on. And we're going to stick to the meal plans that we have. And you can build in snack items to that as well. Snack items that ideally you'd make from fresh yourself, which are going to be much healthier for you. And the third step is we're going to cook everything from scratch. This can take time. It depends on what meals you've planned for the week. Ideally, you'd set a day aside, such as a Sunday, to do some meal prep for the week, and that will save you time during the week. But most importantly, we're going to cook simple meals. What I tend to do myself is cook a breakfast item, and then I'll cook a dinner item. And that dinner item I will put in a Tupperware and use for my lunch the next day, which I can reheat or put in the microwave if needed. So what I'll do is I'll put the recipes on the screen now. That way you can go out and get the ingredients you need to cook the recipes that I'm doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is a jacket potato and beans. Really simple meal that you can just leave to it and go do anything else you want to around the house, and it's super cheap as well. So start by literally poking your potato just to allow the heat to penetrate a bit further. And once you've stabbed your holes, then we're just going to chuck it in the oven, and usually I will stick it in around 180 to 200 degrees for about an hour to an hour and a half, but just check on it every now and then and just see how it's doing. So the next dish we're going to do is a tuna pasta bake. So it's another really simple dish, doesn't take a lot of time on your part, just 5 to 10 minutes to prepare the ingredients before you mix them all together and then chuck them in the oven. For the pasta dish, we're just going to start by boiling some water, and that way we can start on our prep, and then once the water is boiling we can put the pasta we want in. I'll put some details of a single portion size of pasta on the screen so you can see what the ideal amount is. So we've done quite a lot of the prep now. All I've had to do is chop up some onions and some garlic, and that's all we need to prep for the pasta dish. We've got the pasta on the boil, and then we've warmed up a frying pan with a tiny bit of oil, and we're just gonna fry off the onions and the garlic, and then later on we will add in the tinned tomatoes and the tuna, and then some seasonings as well. Make sure to get your pan nice and warm before you chuck the onions in, and just help give them a good head start. You'll also get that nice sizzle when you chuck them in the pan. So in order of cooking wise, we want to put in the onions first, give them a couple of minutes to fry off, and then after they've had a couple of minutes, then we'll go in with the garlic. And then just keep stirring those onions and get them to a stage where they're translucent. So we just put in the garlic with the onions, and we'll give them a couple of minutes, and then we'll go on and we will add the tomatoes. And once we've cooked down the tomatoes a tiny bit, then we'll start adding our flavor profile. So we'll do this by adding spices and herbs. As we're working to a budget, we're going to be looking at dried spices, dried herbs, rather than the fresh variety, which can be much more expensive and will likely cause us to have more food waste if we don't use them in time. I can't tell you how many times I've got fresh herbs and I use the tiniest amount and the rest goes to waste, and I feel so bad about it. So turns out I bought plum tomatoes instead of chopped tomatoes, but that's not a problem. The plum tomatoes you can easily break up with a wooden spoon if you've done the same as me. Ideally we go with chopped tomatoes just to make our life a bit easier, but in this case it's not caused us any issues. So at this stage we're going to add in our herbs and spices. So I'm going to go with a mixture of oregano, paprika, cumin and coriander, and a couple of extra things as well. But this is something that you can do to your preference. So whatever flavor profiles you really enjoy, you can easily add to this dish. Once your pasta's cooked, just drain it, pop it in an oven-proof dish, and then once we've got the tomato base and tuna all prepared, we'll put that on top, and then we'll layer on top of that mixture just some crumbled cheese for added flavor. So we're just going to chuck this in the oven now, in with the jacket potato for probably around 20 minutes until we get some nice melted cheese and some crispy edges probably. And while they are cooking in the oven, we'll prep our breakfast for tomorrow. So I'm just going to clean up. We'll use the same pan that we used for the pasta, and then we'll get going on that. That should only take about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can put that in a bowl ready for our breakfast tomorrow. And the last dish we're going to do is a really simple breakfast oats dish, which is going to be flavoured with peanut butter and either fresh fruit or jam, depending on what you have available and essentially what budget you're sticking to. And what I would suggest with this is if you are sticking to a budget, then fresh fruit is probably off the table. Look more at frozen fruit or like I said, jam, which is going to be a much cheaper option for you, and it will already have quite a lot of flavour packed into it as well. So for the oats, we're just going to whack everything into the saucepan, and then we'll bring that up to a boil. It should thicken up on its own. You can add or remove milk or water depending on how thick or loose you like your oats. But essentially we're just going to chuck all the ingredients in together, including what I like to do is some cinnamon and nutmeg for some natural sweetness. I'm not going to add in any additional sugars, as we don't really want to add that to our morning breakfast. We want to reduce the amount of sugar or remove the sugar for breakfast completely. So once you've got your oats to a consistency you're happy with, just put them into a bowl ready for tomorrow. If you do want to heat them up tomorrow, you can leave them in a saucepan overnight and then reheat them in the morning. And the last thing for us to do is just put the beans in a saucepan and heat them up. Again, you can add what you want to the beans to add flavor. So you can add herbs, spices, or even cheese to add some more flavor. Again, this will depend on what your budget is and what you have available in your store cupboard. So there we have it, 3 simple meals you can do, all within the space of an hour or so. You've got your jacket potato and beans, your pasta dish, which is a tomato and tuna pasta bake, and then you've got your oats, which you prepared for your breakfast tomorrow. And that's all using some very nutritional ingredients. And a lot of these ingredients you'll already have in your store cupboard, which will help make it much cheaper for yourself. And that is day 13 done. Tomorrow on day 14, we're gonna look at something called energy mapping. And what this is we're gonna learn how to manage our energy throughout the day. And we're gonna learn this by tracking how our energy already is and understanding where we have our peaks and troughs in energy. And we'll look at what drains our energy versus what can provide us energy. And this will help us plan our days around our natural body rhythms. But for now, thank you very much for joining me, and go enjoy your meals. If you do want more budget-friendly recipes, have a look at the website. There's a load more free recipes available for you on there.